The 1980s was a time when everything was changing. Some kids always seemed to be on the cutting edge of technological advances and fashion trends, and they always seemed to have expensive tastes. We all grew up knowing someone who had it all. It might have been one particular friend, or maybe it was just a random kid who was spoiled rotten. So let's take a look back at some things that meant you were rich during the 1980s. Some larger, more affluent houses during the 1980s were equipped with an intercom system that allowed family members to communicate from across the house. Yelling was how it was done in most homes, but for a 1980s rich kid, an intercom system was how they were beckoned down for dinner. Having your own dedicated phone line was a classic rich kid perk, but couple that with the coolest novelty phone, and you were the envy of the neighborhood. Maybe it was a Garfield phone, or maybe it was one of the clear phones that lit up when it rang. But either way, it was cool, and you knew you were from a fancy family in the 1980s if your phone was cleverly disguised as something else. Recollection Road is proud to partner with Legacy Box. Get early access to the best deal of the year. Watch until the end of this video to see why Legacy Box is the perfect gift this holiday season. And then visit legacybox.com/recollection for an incredible 65% off. When it came to bundling up in the 1980s, there was only one type of jacket to have if you wanted to show off you had a little money. London fog jackets shielded you from rain, snow, and the jealous stares of peers as you arrived at school. These jackets came in a variety of styles and colors, but the only thing that mattered was that large tag that showcased the name London Fog. It was one thing to have a finished basement, but if you had a basement bar, then you were rich. It was even better if the mini fridge was kept stocked with Sunny D or ice-cold sodas. Often you may have found a pool table down there too, which really amazed friends. It was like a real-life Cheers right in your basement, and meant you were living the high life. There were many different brands of jeans that could be worn during the 1980s. There was Lee, Levi's, Bugle Boy, and Jordache. But if you walked into school wearing a pair of Guess jeans with the upside-down triangle logo on your back pocket, you were letting everyone know you were a member of an elite group. Guess jeans advertised on MTV and in fashion-forward teen magazines, with beautiful celebrities pushing their denim. So they were an obvious choice for the rich kids. If you peeked inside the fridge at a friend's house and saw the likes of Grey Poupon in the door, then you knew they were on another level. You knew the commercials for sure, but probably had never tasted the specialty mustard yourself. There were also other signs that your friend had money, and if you opened the freezer and saw a Viennetta ice cream cake, you knew. The ribbons of ice cream just looked expensive, and it made the Neapolitan block of ice cream at your house pale in comparison. Did you know someone who wore multiple Swatch watches at the same time? If so, then they were probably one of the rich kids. The colorful and eye-catching plastic watches were big sellers in the 1980s, and many of us had one, but it was saying something if you sported 2 or 3 of them on one arm. If you think back to the 1980s, having a VCR was still a pretty big deal. You could record movies off the TV and watch them back whenever, but the real power play was having a library of bought VHS movies next to the TV. They didn't just rent movies from Blockbuster. They had so much money, they bought the tape outright. During the 1980s, if you had a collection like this, you were living a good life. For some of us, having a piano in a formal living room meant you were pretty rich. This also meant that you had someone living in the house that was sophisticated enough to play the thing. It was even more impressive if it was a grand piano with the top propped open. When it came time to go school shopping, did your mom take you to the local discount store, or were you lucky enough to head off to the mall for a day of shopping? Mall stores always had the expensive and trendiest looks, Not only could you stop by boutique stores like Merry-Go-Round, County Seat, and Foot Locker, but you could also shop at large department stores like Dillard's, Macy's, and JCPenney. Speaking of shopping, remember those collared shirts with the little alligator or polo player on the chest? Kids flaunted their wealth by wearing Lacoste and Ralph Lauren polos in the late 1980s. These were just the kind of shirts you would buy at the mall, and although they were perfect for a morning tennis lesson, they were also a classic school look for many well-to-do kids. Most of us had a standard heavy wooden console TV sitting in our living room in the 1980s, but all of us dreamt of a big screen TV. These weren't quite the same as we are used to today, because they still sat on the floor encased in wood, and they had larger projection screens that were the top of the line during this time. Some even had a drawer that pulled out to expose the projector, and a 50-inch TV was as big as you could get. Do you remember when you discovered that they made refrigerators that dispensed both ice and water? It was probably when you were visiting a friend's house, and instead of them going over to the sink faucet, they stood in front of the fridge and filled up a tall glass of ice water, which left you jealous and wide-eyed. Not only did they have a new fancy fridge with French doors, but they also had an automatic ice maker that meant they never had to fill up ice trays. And they always had cold water, which just tasted like the lap of luxury. During the mid to late 1980s, basketball sneakers were becoming a popular way to flaunt your riches, and there was no bigger shoe than Air Jordans. A pair of Jordans would set you back around $100 during the 1980s, and that's why most of us were still wearing Converse sneakers. As each new Air Jordan was released, it was interesting to see who would actually show up to school wearing them, and you can bet there were plenty of kids oohing and eyeing over them. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and make sure to sign up for the Recollection Road newsletter using the link in the description. Recollection Road and Legacy Box both believe it's important to preserve the past. If you've been looking for that perfect gift, look no further than Legacy Box. We all have a box of treasured home movies and photos tucked away somewhere, so why not bring them back to life like I did, using Legacy Box? Now we can relive those memories as a family every time we get together. The process is a simple and safe solution for converting your home movies and photos to thumb drive or the cloud. Just send in your Legacy Box filled with old VHS and camcorder tapes, film reels, and pictures, and get back digital copies that can be easily enjoyed, shared, and kept organized. It's really that easy. Legacy Box is trusted by over 1 million people, and it's all done right here in the USA. Give your loved ones the perfect gift this holiday season. Go to legacybox.com/recollection to get an exclusive 65% off. Take advantage of their best deal of the year and send in your memories when you're ready. Go to legacybox.com/recollection to save 65% while supplies last. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching the other videos in this series. While you're at it, hit subscribe and share Recollection Road with someone you know. As always, thank you so much for watching.